Hi. Working on a little day-long soup here in the crock pot. I've got a nephew who recently spent a Saturday with me, and he was shocked when I told him we were going to spend most of the day cooking. He said a lot of things which aren't exactly repeatable among polite company, but basically his consideration was that all food comes fast and it all comes from the fast food store. It could be McDonald's, could be Taco Bell. Don't want to insult anybody's brand, but his idea is that fast food is fuel for individuals, and you don't necessarily want to do something as unique as eating with anybody else. Now, we have a different perspective. What I've discovered with my nephew is that he knows all there is to know about food. Doesn't know much about cooking. What we've noticed is that everybody knows everything there is to know about branding, although they don't know much about creating a corporate culture. So today, if it's all right with you, I'd like to spend a little time talking about food and talking about branding. And let's see if we can find some lessons that reveal themselves in the art of slow branding that may connect to the art of slow cooking. So I'm going to begin by talking about cooking and taking the lessons from food just because I like eating. And then perhaps we can find some of those lessons that apply equally well to branding. All right, so what do we know about fast food? Well, it's fast. Fast food is for people in a hurry who are not too discriminating. You don't find a lot of gourmets going to McDonald's, and you don't find a lot of gourmet food coming from McDonald's. It comes in a foil wrapper. You pick it up in your own car, and then you take it home and eat it. It's fried. The seasoning is applied to the food after it's cooked. You know, usually at McDonald's they fry it, they put it together, and they put it into a bag, and you get it home and take a bite and you say, oh, it needs salt, oh, it needs pepper. So the seasoning is applied to the food, and so you get the taste of the food, but you get the taste of the seasoning, and you get the taste of the discrete elements. In slow cooking, the seasoning goes in while the food is in preparation. So it's part, organically, of the entire mix. Fast food is generic. You don't find coq au vin showing up at McDonald's. You don't find unique food or special food from the fast food places. It's prepared pretty quickly. It's generally prepared by people who aren't great cooks. The people are strangers, frankly, and they're preparing the cheapest ingredients as quickly as possible and keeping them prepared and hot for you under a lamp or on a steam table. So they're great making the food ready for consumption whenever you want it, and they're great at preparing fuel to be consumed by individuals as quickly as possible. Now, what about slow food? Slow food now is prepared in your own kitchen. Get the idea that maybe you're going to take 6 or 7.5 hours. You're going to start with a crock pot or a pan that's 4.5 inches deep, and you're going to fill it with water and put it in the oven and wait for it to start to boil. When it begins to boil, you put in the potatoes, and you give them an hour, maybe an hour and a half to boil and be done to a turn. Then you pull out the potatoes and put them aside for browning on the grill. You put in the vegetables, same water, same flavor from the potatoes. You let them cook for an hour and a half. You pull out the vegetables, put them aside to be browned on the grill, put in the meat. You're 4 hours into it now when the meat goes in, and it's going to boil for maybe an hour and a half. Just simmer, just slowly simmering the entire time. And while it's cooking, you're going to add the flavoring. You're going to add the seasoning. And that seasoning is going to simmer and grow and enhance itself, and all the seasonings are going to interact with the flavor of the various components, and you're going to have a much deeper, much more organic, much fuller flavor when you actually get around to consuming the food. When the meat's done, it comes out and it's put aside for browning on the grill. And now you begin to take that flavored water and make it into soup that's now very full and very aromatic. You take out the water that's going to be used for the soup, and probably you'll trim some parsley on top of it for serving. And you take the remains of that pot of water that's been cooking all day, add the other components to make the sauce, the flour, the gravy, and you're going to have the unifying element for the entire meal. Now this meal is going to be served on crockery with silver and a glass of wine. And probably for dessert, some local cheese and some local fruit. Now, the combination of all of this is that from the soup to the sauce to the component parts of the meal itself to the dessert, this is all organic and it's all slow cooked. And when it gets to the table, the family will be seating themselves and you'll raise your glasses and toast to one another and enjoy a communal event that we call a meal. Slow food. So, what's all this got to do with slow branding? So, what's all this got to do with slow branding? Well, stay with me. But a brand is nothing more than a great reputation. A great reputation is based on a successful culture. All corporations have culture. Culture happens. The point is, culture happens either by default or by design. In most corporations, it's happening by default because we hire people from other companies and they come on with all their knowing and all their practicing. And everybody knows everything there is to know about branding. Everybody knows everything there is to know about selling. And when they come to work here, they keep doing what they did in the last corporation. So most corporate culture is culture by default. But in the successful few corporations, culture is culture by design. Culture that is built inside out from the heart and soul of the founders. They started out slow cooking their company. They began it, they built it, they grew it over years, and new people who came on associated with the founders, and they learned how the recipe was created. They learned how the dish was cooked. And then as a new team of executives comes on, they have to learn how to make that dish themselves. And so they have to learn how to build a brand and a reputation that formerly was slow cooked. It's now something we're going to try and take out to the marketplace in a larger volume, in a greater order of magnitude. And so what was once a slow cooked dish that was wonderful and satisfying for everybody now becomes a mechanized brand, but with the same heart and soul that the founders brought to the dish. So now the executives are online and they are perpetuating that brand, that culture, that dish. And the management team comes on board and the managers are managing to that standard, to that style by design. And so they take the brand and build it to, for, and with the employees. And the employees are now part of the branding package, part of the culture design package. And they build and develop the brand and the culture to and with the clients. And they proceed to build to and with the prospects who consider that we really have a unique little universe here, and they proceed to talk about it, and so the marketplace finds out about this unique planet where everything works and everything is aligned. What we believe, what we do, and what we say all emanate from the inside out, and they all line up. So this is pretty much nirvana. It's the kind of meal you'd like to eat with the people you do business with all the time. Now, how do you build that successful culture? How do you do it? Well, we would suggest that it starts with the right ingredients, with the right cornerstones. Things you do uniquely in this corporation, and everybody does them the same way. The cornerstones that we usually work with when we start to build a culture with a client company, They start with communication so that we can all have the same idea about the fact that every meeting should have an outcome, not just result in another meeting. We all sell the same way. We're all counselor salespeople. We're not just there to tell about our product. We're there to listen to the client and have them tell us why they need anything and why they think they might need what we can do. And so we reach an agreement together rather than slam a product down someone's throat. Then there's management. Maybe servant management would be the best way to characterize our approach to this, that a manager is not there to order people to do things. The manager is there to help individuals do their job more effectively and more efficiently and with more satisfaction in what they're doing. So the manager is responsible for the development of the people who've been entrusted to their care. A wildly different approach than most corporate environments. And finally, strategy, the last of the cornerstones, that if we're thinking about trying to engage everybody's imagination about what this company could become if it all worked out for the best, that's a great way to motivate people to move into the future, as opposed to simply trying to make their numbers next quarter. So these four cornerstones, communication, sales, management, and strategy, are the things that can really distinguish the culture at your firm once you learn how they work and begin to make sure that everybody is working the same way. You know it's successful when someone calls you on the phone and says, I want to do business with you guys because I know all about who you are. And you're pleasantly surprised and say, well, gosh, how do you know who we are? And they say, well, I've talked to your clients, I've talked to people in the marketplace, I've talked to your employees, and I know all about you guys. I know how you work, I know how you conduct yourselves, I know what you stand for, and I want to do business with you. Now, we call that one story, many voices. And it's the indicator that you've been doing organic branding or slow-cooked branding successfully and effectively over the years. This kind of a brand is home-cooked. It begins from the inside and works its way out over a period of years. It's home-cooked in your own kitchen, and it's enjoyed with your family, the people who work with you, the people who work for you, and the people that you're trying to produce for. It's not magic, but it looks magical. At Fusion, we think we're in the cooking business, the slow cooking business, the brand development business over the long term. And while we're not going to develop a brand for you, and God forbid we're not going to build you a style manual, we sure would like to help you learn how to use the tools of culture building and brand building to create your own unique recipe. So come on down and let us help you cook up a brand.